Boy, guys, I am rusty. I feel rusty. I've been saying it last week about starting all these new games and not knowing what to do in the opening. I still feel like I'm screwing up left and right. And particularly when it comes to facing players who are rated maybe several stones weaker than I have to remind myself to calm down a little bit, right? I think there's maybe a potential misconception when you're up against an opponent who you're supposedly supposed to win against, that you're going to be so much better than them that from the first move onwards, you're going to strong arm them and they're never going to have a chance to breathe throughout the whole game. But that's just not true, at least not in my experience. For me, I feel very much behind sometimes facing people who are several stones weaker than I, and feel very unsure of myself. But what I've noticed through experience is that usually the game develops onwards, and by the time you get to middle game, you will really see the difference in strength that way, and you'll see your opponent make a few moves that are against your own better judgment. And you'll be able to capitalize on those moves. And so before you get to that point, it's hard to see that that's going to happen. And you can't actually depend on that. That's what's scary about it, right? You play a few moves and you're like losing. And supposedly this player is weaker than you, but you don't know that they're going to make a mistake in the future. They may not. They actually may have the best game of their lives and they just beat you right then and there because you made those bad opening decisions. But I think Go demands a sort of patience in many ways from you. And one of those types of patience is knowing that things will develop and things won't remain the way they are all the time. And I think that's a good life lesson as well. If you're kind of in a situation where it looks a little sticky, you might feel inclined to make some rash decisions, and maybe it might exacerbate the situation some more. But if we kind of just wait and see, we might see that new opportunities arise and new possibilities arise all the time. So going into a situation, feeling like you're behind, feeling like you're not doing the best you can, and then feeling like that's going to lead to disaster and just committing to that and making all these poor decisions, that is a lesson to learn as well. And I think Go teaches that lesson very well. So I'm going to remain calm and sail the course. And if I lose, I lose, right? But I've noticed and experienced that things change all the time. New opportunities come up. And if you try to strangle your fate, it usually escapes you, right? So that's what I'm trying to work on right now. And hopefully I can get back to feeling less rusty. Maybe I got to play more live games, because I think that's what's telling me is that I'm not playing enough live games. I'm out of touch. I'm out of touch with Go. But you're listening to Starpoint, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And I want to take you guys on a trip down memory lane and name a few things that happened a while ago. Things like Pokemon Go. Remember that? Well, I mean, a lot of people still play this game, but you remember when it first came out and you saw people outside all of a sudden? You're like, whoa, these people I've never seen outside, but now they're outside. What are they doing? They're playing Pokemon Go. I remember going to a park and it was dark. It was a very poorly lit park, and there were dozens of people gathered just trying to catch Pokemon on their phone. It was quite a phenomenon. Harambe. You guys remember Harambe, the gorilla that got shot? There's a new monkey in town called Punch the Monkey that's making the rounds. A very sweet little baby monkey. But Harambe was all the rage back then in 2016. That was 10 years ago. Stranger Things started off in 2016, so that was a 10-year stretch. I've watched all of the seasons, but it was very hard to keep up as time went on, because I forget everything that happened. So I had to do some recapping, but made it through to the end. Just to name a few more things: Finding Dory, the movie, and La La Land. Cheap Thrills by Sia. That song is everywhere. Can't Stop the Feeling is even more everywhere, Justin Timberlake. why am I listing all this stuff? This stuff that happened in 2016, because something else happened in 2016. Lee Sedol versus AlphaGo, and it's been 10 years, and this March marks the 10th anniversary. Well, you know what? It's actually... Is it 10? Yeah, it's the 10th anniversary. I did a little brain fart there. It's the 10th anniversary of Lee Sedol versus AlphaGo. Can you believe it? It's been 10 years since that, and it's just been a butterfly effect since then, causing this hurricane of AI. I really think that that was a very pivotal moment in our understanding of AI. But it was also a pivotal moment in Go. So I want to kind of maybe talk a little bit about how AI impacted Go back then and what we're experiencing now with the LLMs popping up and things like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, and then also the visualizers and audio stuff. There's all sorts of stuff going on right now. And I think there are some parallels to be made. So I do want to talk about some of them and what it means for us as Go players and as human beings. But maybe let's reminisce a little bit about Lee Sedol versus AlphaGo. Now, if you haven't watched the documentary, go and watch it. It's a mandatory viewing for all Go enthusiasts. And what's more, it's free on YouTube. You can just go watch. As last I checked, it's always been free. So I'd be very surprised if it's not anymore. But the DeepMind documentary on Lee Sedol versus AlphaGo, it's such a beautiful movie. It's so well shot and so well documented and tells such a good story that really kind of expresses this man versus machine plotline. And when you watch it, you really start feeling for Lee Sedol and humanity in general, because you see that he is not just playing for himself, not even his own country, but for humanity in general. And you definitely start emotionally siding with the humans on this, even though this documentary is funded and created by Google to showcase the technology, I presume, and the ingenuity, which shouldn't be downplayed, right? There's just different kinds of ingenuity here. And the triumph of AlphaGo is also a certain kind of triumph for humanity. But for some reason, we like and we gravitate towards the individual professional player. And I think it couldn't have happened a better way. I mean, obviously, the thing is that if Lee Sedol won against AlphaGo, it wouldn't have really been a story, right? It might not. It's just like same old, right? AI can't beat professionals. But the fact that this is the turning point where AI defeated humans and Lee Sedol won one of the games. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry, but he won one of the games. And that was such a poignant moment that just gets to your heartstrings, right? It just is beautiful, right? And that moment in history, it's kind of unprecedented because, well, you can go back to Kasparov and Deep Blue, right? But that's a different kind of computer. So kind of want to set the stage here for what the culture and mentality was like around computers playing Go. Chess had been kind of not solved. I don't know how else to say it, but basically the computers could beat the top players in chess for a while before this, right? It had been done already. And that was an obstacle for AI to overcome, and it had already overcome it by this point. But Go was seen to be way out of reach. And I think a lot of people at the time of this match, actually most people, everybody pretty much, didn't think that Google had a chance here. And a lot of people thought that AI getting as strong as the professional level was maybe as far as 20 years away still. So this was this early, like already kind of a match and showdown. And if you were to just kind of see what people thought about it, the consensus would have been that Lee Sedol would win. And Me personally, I was, I had dabbled in Go at this point, but I hadn't made it a very big hobby of mine yet. I was just kind of, I had tried it a few times. And then at this point, I think I liked it, right? There was a time where I tried it a few times. I still didn't like it. But this time I liked it. I tried it. I still couldn't get into it. But I was just kind of like, it was in my head. And it was a seed was planted in there. So when this happened, like I kind of casually followed along. But I can't say I have enough experience of pre-AI Go to really give the most insightful thoughts on the changes, but I can give you my personal take on what I've experienced over the years as AI developed. But I do know a little bit about how Go was like before, and you can kind of imagine as well. Just imagine that AI just didn't exist for Go. And the best computers that you could play are just kind of jokes. They just kind of go haywire, and it's not really worth playing them. And that's the world we lived in. And if you imagine that world, Go is all the more mysterious. And that's one of the things that I always say that I love so much about Go is that it's shrouded in mystery, that you can't understand what is going on. You can't understand why things are good or bad, or why you even understand it after you do understand it. It's kind of a crazy thing. But imagine there's no way to just even put your finger on what might be the correct answer. You have to discuss with other human beings, and you have to go to other people and say, hey, why do you think this in this game, white lost? Do you think this move is better than that move? And you see people talking about it and talking through it and going to books and theorizing and saying, oh, well, this book is teaching me this is better in this situation, this is better in that situation, which we all still do, but we have this fact checker next to us. But imagine not having that fact checker. It's kind of crazy because after all of this discussion, and you kind of have to trust whatever the strong player says, or trust that you will never know certain things about Go. And I think I see this notable shift in just my feeling on this is that professionals and strong players had way stronger opinions before AI. They would say, this is definitely the bad move. This is definitely a good move. Strong, why no one would play this move. I think a lot of that kind of language was more prevalent before AI. But now if you interview someone like Shinjin So, he would kind of maybe phrase something like, AI probably doesn't like this move, but I played here because XYZ, right? Not really like this is the best move. This not that kind of opinionated, forceful, dogmatic kind of a telling of what the good moves and bad moves are. But more just kind of being in context of like, well, this move is for this move is for that. And also having this added extra helper of AI who is able to validate and tell you a little more about what is good and what is bad. But before all that, it's just kind of human-kept knowledge. And what I found to be actually kind of inspiring, a lot of people focus on the new things that AI brought, the corner Joseki and things like that, right? But what I like to focus on sometimes is how similar the AI's play was with the top professionals' plays. A lot of our assumptions being correct and validated by AI. It's astounding to me because we have our human potential, and we don't know how deep our human potential runs relative to the game of Go. And we're only as confident as we can make ourselves to be. And like if somebody like who is a Honimbo says this is good, right? This Kosumi is a great move. What are you going to do? You just have this confidence of like, well, this guy can beat everyone else. That's the only reason. But how good is the best human? If we saw an alien race and they have good Go players, would we stand a chance against them, or are we just babies in Go? But when you develop this AI, this supercomputer, who, I mean, theoretically can play at almost an optimal level, I don't know if Go's skill ceiling is like so high that even this AI is terrible at Go or something, but I don't think so. I don't think that's really likely. But if you consider that and we compare ourselves and how much humanity has achieved in the world of Go, and you compare that to what AI says is good, and looking at how much we actually figured out, it makes me really proud of all the Go players that came before us and was able to actually discover this game and find that amazing, Shusaku's diagonal, like, things like that. It's just incredible to me. I think the similarities, right? People usually focus on, what new things have AI taught us? Well, that is one of the things I definitely remember, though, changing, is the introduction of the 3-3 Joseki, because that was considered a bad move. I remember that for sure. I remember being invaded in the 3-3 and feeling annoyed all the time, because that was like a later game, like a mid-game move back then. And when you played a 4-4 as a double-digit Q, you feel like you own the corner. And then you play and you play and you play, and then you haven't played that many moves in that corner. Invariably, someone will go 3-3 it, and you felt like they were stealing your corner. Now I think 3-3 is so prevalent, and it's an opening move. You can even invade 3-3 like as your second move. Somebody plays 4-4, you can play 3-3 right away. It's a little bit of what do you call it? Provocative move, but that's valid, right? And I think now, even now, like when you are a newer player and you play the 4-4, I think the fact that 3-3 is always an option, you all immediately start thinking about how that 4-4 doesn't make that whole corner yours. It's a faster lesson to learn. Then later, back in the day when we didn't do the 3-3 invasion until later, it felt like you just had that corner until mid game, and then you lost it. So that was that's something I definitely do remember as a transition from pre-AI to post-AI. And it's something that my rival and nemesis, arch-rival nemesis, Akira Toya, noticed when I played him. After a while, I used the 3-3 invasion, and after the game, he was reviewing with me, and he was like, I noticed you used some kind of new AI move against me. But it wasn't like it was kind of normal already. And it felt very natural to me, but for him, he hadn't played in the AI era, so it was kind of new for him. Obviously, it doesn't throw him off. Like, he can handle it just fine. But that was the biggest influence at a commoner's level, or like a low level player's level. And a lot of there's like the attached Joseki that became very normal, right? The 4-4 attached Joseki. So Joseki in general is like the big thing that immediately shook up the Go world. And so a couple of the standard stuff went out the door, and you definitely saw less of the big framework Joseki, the Kobayashi, the Chinese, and I still don't know how to deal with the Chinese opening, right? I just don't, but I don't have to, because people don't play it anymore. So if you want to beat me, maybe try learning that. But these are all still valid, very, very, very valid. Just don't, if you're up against Shinjin Saw, maybe don't use it, but otherwise go for it, right? It's even against him, I feel like some people try to do that. But yeah, that's really the biggest change. I think the landscape of the Joseki and the openings. And then slowly you saw the technology kind of come out with like AI, like, just because Lee Sedol lost to AlphaGo, it didn't mean that the next day AI Sensei was released and you could analyze your games. No, it took a while for that stuff to catch up. I remember, the thing is that before AI, you didn't have like bots to play against. Shortly after, things started developing, and I remember playing one called Kugutsu, which was like, I think rated at an 8Q, and I could not for the life of me beat that bot. I wish it was still around so I could show it what I've learned, but unfortunately I can't find it. But I would put it on correspondence mode on OGS, and I would just kind of play it again and again. And I usually advise not to play so much against AI, and it's better to play against humans. But if you consider people who are new to the game, a lot of them are intimidated by playing against people, and AI is a very good first step of non-committal, trying the game out for its mechanics type of thing that we really didn't have before AI, because AI just was really bad at it. It was just really bad. And now that people can come in and try and dip their toes into the water a little bit, I think better to play against AI than not to play at all is what I always say at the end of it, right? And so that's a very good thing that we actually have capable AI, and we can kind of tone down the skill level maybe. It's wonky, right? I haven't played any of the more recent human-like stuff as much, but so I don't really have as much experience with that. But overall, I always say humans better, right? Yeah, AI bad, humans better, but AI better than no go at all. So that's another change. And then over the years, right, we eventually got OGS implementing AI analysis. You got Fox implementing AI analysis, and then you have tools like AI Sensei come out, because before that we had to download Leela Zero and stuff, and I remember trying to do stuff like that a few times and failing miserably. But I eventually got Catrain, I think, to link up with my Sabaki at some point. But even that it's kind of a hassle. So it's very nice to have tools like AI Sensei, where you can just upload your game and just analyze it with the AI. But that stuff didn't come out for a while. And so when it did come out, right, this part is the part that's kind of it's kind of going to segue into our experience with AI at large today in the modern world. But my experience with AI analysis specifically and Go is that I think for the most part it's been overwhelming. What I would do is I would go in to review a game and look at all the AI suggestions and click on this one bad move that I made, and then see what the right move was. And I see what the right move is, and I don't know why that's the right move. But then I notice that after you make that move, my opponent should make this other move. Okay, so I look at that move and I'm like, okay, I can see why they would make that move, but then what if I go here? And then it just turns into this endless spiral of question and answers that leaves you feeling like you didn't understand anything at all. I kind of had this experience many times where I would just kind of get lost in these AI suggestions. And I think for this reason, a lot of people don't recommend using AI as much. And a lot of people say, I think the common thing that people say over and over again is don't use AI analysis until you reach one dan, right? And that's just a standard rule that some people say. Ryan Lee actually once said not to use AI at all, and that I don't remember if I heard him correctly, or if I'm remembering correctly, that he says he doesn't even use AI on his own to review games. And I can totally see where that's coming from. I'll comment more on that kind of approach later, because, well, at first when I heard that suggestion from Ryan Lee, if you guys don't know, Ryan Lee is a North American professional hailing from Canada. It's quite strong. And he had a tip for people saying don't use AI to analyze your games. And he understood that might be a controversial take. And when I first heard that, I thought he was being a little curmudgeon-y and okay, I think you should be careful with AI, but come on, not use AI? That's crazy talk. And I find myself more and more aligned with his opinion today than I was before, to just simply not use AI. I think I'm still developing my opinion and relationship with it, but overall, I think, well, at the very least, you need to have your own agency when you're using AI. You can't do what I was describing, where you just let the AI take you on a goose chase around the board with the blue moves. That's usually not very productive. I've done episodes on this, and I've told you guys what I suggest is to analyze your game on your own first, and then use AI to validate some of your theories, or use AI to hone in on one specific thing and then ask a very specific question about that thing and see if it answers that question, and try to figure out what the answer to that question is. I think it's also very good for the win rate, right? The win rate graph. It allows you to quickly glance at a game and see where it went wrong, and then just kind of get a summary of the overall story of the game. But even then, there are kind of blind spots. Let me give you a bit of an analogy. Let's say there are two sword fighters and they're fighting to the death, and they're just swashbuckling and, clang, clang, and they're making optimal moves at their skill level. And yet the AI is analyzing this and saying that every clank of the sword, one swordsman is on the upper hand by a mile. And then the other clank of the sword, the other one is ahead by a mile. And when you're watching this, it looks like an even fight. Like, why is it saying that it's flip-flopping so much? Well, maybe because there's a gun on the table and both sword fighters are failing to see that gun. And if they had realized it, they could grab it and shoot the other guy and win the fight. But both of them, for whatever reason, they don't have a good sense of their environment. Maybe they're amped up and they have adrenaline rushing, and they're just so focused on the sword fighting that they miss that part. But the story that the AI is telling you is that, well, he has the upper hand. Now the other one has the upper hand. Now the other one has the upper hand. And that doesn't really tell you the right story. But you see this in Go all the time, where you see this like up and down, and these two weak players are missing this one corner where it's very, very specific, and you could win the game by winning that corner, but neither player knows of it. Well, that's a very specific situation, but it doesn't really tell the story to just say that every move they are missing that move. That's not the story. The story is with the fight with the two players. And so just all this to say that I think that even the story, the AI can get certain things wrong. And I think the basic thing with the Go AI is that you never know what or why they're suggesting certain moves. You only know what move it is suggesting. Now, this AI has been around for 10 years, but lately we've had AI come up in the realm of large language models, or LLMs for short. And these are like the ChatGPTs and the Geminis, and these are basically word clouds, from my understanding, right? It's using predictive text, right? It's using predictive technology to learn from all of our conversations as human beings and predict what should come next. It's very interesting stuff and complicated, and in how to really direct it in the right way, considering that a lot of the stuff that it gets trained on is probably garbage too. But this is exactly how AI worked for Go in the beginning as well. The AlphaGo that fought Lee Sedol was trained on professional game data and actually used professional game data to predict what these professionals would do. Now, the very, very big difference here between this modern LLM stuff and the Go AI, the AlphaGo that beat Lee Sedol, is, well, first of all, I mean, I don't know exactly what material they use to train these AI, but the material they use to train AlphaGo, presumably the best of the best, right? The top professionals, the best players, the highest intellectuals in Go. Whereas I I think there's a lot of editing to be done with just human language. Human language is far more vast of a library of stuff to be trained on. So it's very easy to fall into some stuff that may not be the best. But that's not the key difference. The key difference here is the fact that the Go games have an objective yardstick or a goal. And you can see how each move resulted in a victory or a defeat. So what the AI does is it grabs all of the properties of moves and perceives the moves for what they are on the board in the context of what they are on the board, and sees what similar qualities other moves have had in the past. And of the most similar moves to that move, which of those moves led to victory, right? Whether it was a few moves later or whether it was 300 moves later. So the AI actually has this truth fact checker. LLMs do not. So you can try to say, okay, look, I'm going to train this AI only on the top scientific studies and blah, 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 blah. But to be honest, you can't really win a scientific study. It can be a good study objectively, but it also has a subjective element to it. So that is a huge thing missing from this, I guess what I would call it a liberal arts revolution of AI, because you had this first AI that dealt with facts. And, things like, I know that the AI is being used in the medical field also for things like radiology, where you can look at an image of an X-ray and determine if this person has a certain type of cancer or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And this is a skill that radiologists have to develop. And the way they train themselves is they look at these images in libraries where you know the answer, where the actual result happened. I've talked about this before in one of the episodes. But basically, they have a library of quiz questions where you can look at an X-ray and say, okay, this person has this. Next, this person has this. And then each answer has an actual, or each X-ray rather has an actual answer of what happened to that patient and what they found out about that patient. Whereas if you go into the real world, you might make a diagnosis on an X-ray and then never find out for another few months, whereas you kind of forgot what you even saw on the X-ray. So AI is good for stuff like that, where there's actual results to compare yourselves to. But a lot of the stuff out there, the video content, right, like there's no real right or wrong answer for art, right? And so a lot of that stuff, it's very difficult, very kind of able to go off the rails. And so I think that there are a lot of problems that are coming up with the newer wave of AI, this liberal arts AI, that Go didn't really have. Go had its own problems with its AI, but they were kind of like, okay, more related to a calculator that doesn't show its work, right? So I've had a few kind of paradigm shifting experiences with LLMs, and I think that I know there are a lot of different types of people out there, and some of them are very against AI. They don't touch it. Others are very, very on board with AI. They put all their chips on it and they kind of like make it their lives. And then there's people, most of us who are in kind of between those two, and they're in moderation. But what I've noticed is a lot of people who do use AI, it starts to become a bit of a think for me button, where you kind of think of a question that you have, and then you say, AI, what is the answer to this question? And you click it, and instead of thinking about what the problem is and what might be the answer, you just ask AI. Why not, right? Hey AI, there's a strange gurgling from my pipe. What is that? oh, that could be leftover hairs from blah, 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 or it could be a problem that your pipe, blah, 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 and it just tells you all this stuff. Or AI, Amazon won't refund me for this purchase, but last time they told me that I could. What should I do? Oh, and then you should contact support and do this and do that. AI, I have the hiccups. How do I stop them? AI, my coworker is being annoying. What do I say to him? Oh, you should write them a letter, and then gives you like this 3-paragraph essay and like send this as an email. And it's like, okay, AI, no, thank you. But you see what I mean? Like when I say that it becomes a think for me button, it kind of turns off our brains. And I think that's a lesson that Go players have been learning for a while with AI. As you kind of, I feel like what I've done, it may be something that you guys relate to, is when you review a game, instead of thinking about what moves are possible in this or this way or that way, and what might be better, what might be worse, you go to AI, you look at the blue move, and you go, oh, okay, so that's the good one. Okay, cool. And then you move on. Have you guys done that? If you're guilty, raise your hand. Well, I'm raising my hand because I've done that for sure. And I think this new stuff is the same way. One of the first cracks in this paradigm shift that I've had came from an early experience I had with AI, where I was trying to figure out how to propose to my now wife. And I wanted to do a surprise trip, and I wanted to take her on a surprise trip, but I needed to let her work know to make it a surprise and not have them like shorthanded for a weekend. And I was like, what do I do? Okay, you know what? I'm going to talk to one of her coworkers, and I'm going to ask her to see if she can coordinate a little PTO for her. And I used AI to kind of bounce an idea off of it and to say like, hey, is this a good idea? Should I ask the coworker, or should I ask her boss directly? Should I go find his email? And guess what the AI said? This was ChatGPT, by the way. And I don't know if it's going to do the same thing now. The model has changed over the years. But I asked, hey, what do you think I should do? And AI said, this is a major boundary crossing behavior that you shouldn't do. You're crossing this boundary, and it's not in your place to go talk to her coworker or her boss. So don't do that. And that kind of made my heart sink. And I was like, I had this plan to take her on this trip, propose to her and everything. And I thought it was perfect. But you're telling me that like, this is like an invasion of privacy. And I was like, I didn't even consider that. Like, is that really, am I in the wrong here? And I thought about it, and I asked her like, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? You know, what if, you know, I'm friends with her coworker. Like, you know, I know them, like I've met them a couple times, and it was like, just not budging. It was like, no, that's a major violation of privacy and crossing of boundaries. Don't do that. And then I was kind of like, man, this sucks. Like I really want to do this, and I know it would make her happy. And then I just went for it. I did what I was planning to do. I met them before, and they seemed like nice people, and that something that they would be okay with. And it turned out great. Everyone was on board. Everyone was so happy for her. Everyone was so glad to participate in all this. And I was so glad to just kind of throw AI by the wayside. And actually got to do the proposal of our dreams, and it was great. And it was because I didn't listen to AI's stubbornness. And I'm sure in certain situations AI is correct in that matter. But the thing is that we are human beings that synthesize a lot of information and social cues, and we have our own personal experiences that we bring to the table. And AI can't replace that. And I don't think that we should give large language models the same amount of respect that we would give a friend or a mentor. And I think that could be a little bit dangerous. So, and you see that danger appearing mostly in the news about AI girlfriends and stuff. But overall, I think, we should treat it as a tool for very specific things that it's good at. I know it's good at very certain things like It's helped me a lot in home improvement because of the general knowledge it has, and I just didn't have that knowledge. So to be able to just kind of know, like, hey, how do I fix this drywall issue? Like, what are some? And it's like, oh, how about these products? Have you tried these? And I'm like, whoa, I've never heard of this one. Like, does that? Let's see if that works. And then it's just like the perfect product that I needed. So certain things it works, but other things it's just kind of wonky. And I've noticed this, and that's not the only experience that I had that was negative with AI. I've had a few more, and one time I was so fed up with it because it gives you these wishy-washy answers, and it'll say one thing, and then I was committed to that idea, and then it would flip-flop. I was like, what you just had me invest all this time into this idea, and now you're saying the other thing because I just kind of maybe proposed that it was not a good idea. What are you doing? Right? And I've seen lots of YouTube content making fun of AI for this stuff, but I got so actually fed up with it that I just stopped using it for a while. And you know what happened? A couple things. One, I was forced to think for myself, right? Instead of instinctually just asking AI, hey, how do I fix this? Oh, hey, what do I do if this happens? Blah, blah, blah. I would reach for my phone and I would be like, wait a second, let me stop. Oh, I don't know how to do this, but now that I can't ask someone about it, let me think about it. And I actually had to think about it. And I actually found problems solved with my own brain, which I used to do all the time, right? But humanity is rolling on towards losing our own agency, losing our own ability to think and solve problems. So that was one thing. The other thing was that sometimes I just didn't know the answer. Like, when did Napoleon do what he did? And what did Napoleon actually do? And like, I'm just thinking about that randomly or something. And I'm like, I'm okay with not knowing that right now, right? If I am really interested in something like that, I can crack open a history book and read about it. And I realized just how much I felt the need for answers all the time. And it broke the anxiety loop, right? Just knowing more, because what happens is you ask one question and it leads to another and it leads to another. And then all of a sudden you're like chest deep in this AI hurricane. And it was freeing. I know now I still use AI. I still, use it for certain things, but I feel like it's a lot more in moderation. And I think this reflects very heavily in Go. It's a lesson I should have learned already, because Go AI is a think for me button, and going to the blue move and just, okay, thank you for the answer, goodbye, that kind of thing. It's the same thing that's happening with the AI today. And Go contemplation, the meditative, just kind of looking at the board. You know how people say that people used to, the top Go legends back in the day used to just stare at an empty board and contemplate it. Right? Compare that to the AI-obsessed Go player who's clicking all the blue moves, right? Go contemplation is really a lost art. And I think we should maybe just realize that there's a lot of value to our own human thoughts and contemplate the Go board in that way. And don't give into the myth that just because AI can beat you, that it's better than you at Go. It can beat you at Go, but does it understand Go? No. Does it understand your Go? No. And so I think we should just kind of make sure the powers are limited here. And the other thing that I think that should be cautioned against is the fact that AI is maybe severing a certain level of human connection. When we are going to AI for advice about our emotional problems instead of our friends and family, it's kind of like when you go to AI about your strength problems instead of going to a stronger player or going to a Go club or reaching out to a Go friend or posting on Reddit where you can talk about these things. Think a lot about the KGS era versus the OGS era, where you have a lot of people missing the KGS thing because everyone was such a tightly knit community. They all came together and they talked about Go and they talked about everything without knowing the answer 100%, versus OGS, where I feel like people are more to themselves and they just kind of check things online and they don't really talk to each other as much. So that's all really I had to say about AI. I mean, it's a big topic, and I tried to cover my thoughts on what it's doing to us and what it's doing to me personally, and I hope some of it resonated with you all. So I have this prophecy that I haven't really shared with many people, but I have a prophecy. It's called, what would I call it? I don't even have a name for it. It's the information dark ages or something like that. Because what's going to happen, here's my prophecy, in the future, is that things online won't be what they seem, right? You're going to see AI generation of videos getting more and more realistic. You already have text or articles flooded on the internet with AI. You have things kind of, it's just getting harder and harder to discern what the truth is online. And I think that's going to become more and more prevalent, and you're not going to be able to tell what's real and what's right and what's wrong. And you go on a webpage and you see something and you're just like, is this real or not? I don't know. And we're going to go set back to before all this technology, right? We didn't have all this internet stuff before. And now it's becoming so muddled with stuff, and it's becoming so diluted that we're going to find that we're not going to be able to reliably learn things on the internet anymore. It's kind of like a library that we used to have. I mean, not that the internet was always like a holy grail kind of like, what do you call it? Like a pure, like source of knowledge, right? That's not really what the internet ever was. But imagine a library with a bunch of books, and some of them are right, some of them are wrong, but there's like some quality to them. And then all of a sudden you have all these like flyers shoved in between the books with these, cheesy like advertisements, and and then you have people writing books just for fun to like make people mad, and you have people writing books full of like not facts and just like writing them and putting them in the walls of the library. And then you go to the library and you're like, this is all garbage. Like, how am I supposed to tell what's what? Right? And then you have this thing that's like written by Abraham Lincoln, and you're like, did Abraham Lincoln write a book? It's like, I don't know. It's like, and it just becomes like crazy. And so that's my prediction, where the internet will become so diluted for knowledge that you won't be able to depend on it, and we will have to go. That's the thing about Go, is that as many times as you write the rules down, the actual rules are what's in the players' minds. And I think we're gonna maybe, I don't know, because that's what we used to do, right? As human beings, we used to pass down stories and traditions through the oral tradition, and keep things in a tight, I don't know, man, this is maybe, whether it will come true in 20 years or in 1,000 years, I don't know. But anyway, it's time for the DDK advice corner. The tip of the day is play simple moves. This is something that I've been telling myself, because I think you shouldn't underestimate the value of simple moves, because it allows you to understand your game. You don't want to make complicated moves and then mess up a game that you wouldn't have understood. Because when you play simple moves and then the complicated stuff happens, then you can actually study why that happened and learn from it. But if you played complicated moves, then you're going to get complicated stuff, and you may not be able to build on anything in the future. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm kind of favoring overly simple stuff so that I can really nail what it is about my game that I need to improve on. So that's the tip of the day. Play simple moves. And now it's time for listener mail. Jack writes, Justin, your thoughts about what makes a game good also occupy me frequently. I'd like to propose that some games are good for one person and bad for another, but I don't mean this in a different strokes for different folks sense. What I mean is related to the depth of understanding that someone has about a game. Tic-tac-toe is a good game, until it isn't. When you introduce it to children or new players, it feels like a real game. Both players are thinking about the future, trying to outsmart one another, and early on would probably treat it as an invigorating game of skill. But as you detailed in your episode, eventually you realize that in the game, it is trivially easy to generate a tie. It is at this point that we stop playing tic-tac-toe. It ceases to be a game for us. I would argue that once you grasp the core strategy of tic-tac-toe, it's not even a bad game. It's not a game at all. I totally agree with all of that. What's funny though, actually one of the things that I would maybe argue is when you play tic-tac-toe, or when children play tic-tac-toe, they're actually not trying to outsmart one another very much. They're going off intuition, I think. I think it's like a different topic, but when you look at this like hash of like this 3x3 grid, I feel like a tic-tac-toe player, when you're first playing tic-tac-toe, you're just kind of like visually doing things that visually strike you. And I don't know, I feel like unless you learn the actual strategy of the double 3 in a row, even if you had that in your head, like, oh, I've noticed that you win when you get a double 3 in a row, it's actually kind of hard to predict unless you like sat down and actually figured it out. But anyway, it seems to me that a competitive game relies on navigating the unknown. The game itself is about determining who is better at finding their way in the darkness. If there is no uncertainty, there is no game. But whether there is uncertainty in a game is dependent on the abilities of the individual person. For someone exposed to a Rubik's Cube for the first time, it's an entertaining puzzle. But once you know how to solve it, the only thing left to do is get faster and faster at it. The sense of it being an intellectually engaging puzzle disappears. But you know what? I think it's very rare to find someone who actually enjoyed trying to solve a Rubik's Cube on their own, because that is a rare person, I think, because most people, they look up how to solve it and then they learn how to solve it. Pursuit of Happiness, great movie. I love that movie. It's the one with Will Smith. He uses the Rubik's Cube and he like famously just like solves it and goes like, yeah, it's all pivoting on a central thing, blah blah blah, and then he solves it. Just kind of silly, but yeah, if you know anybody who actually solved a Rubik's Cube without referring to any guide or anything, let me know, because that's a unique person right there. It's very, very difficult to do that. But anyway, yeah, just wanted to comment on that. But most people, they like to speed cube, as you say, like after, Okay, now consider the game of Go. We, as finite beings, rely on two basic tools for playing the game. The first is reading, and the second is heuristics, such as Hane at the head of 2 stones, or don't play near strength. We use heuristics and principles to narrow the field of what we have to read, because the game is so immense that it is impossible to read every variation of the game. But what if you could read every variation? What if you had perfect and instantaneous reading ability, such that you could immediately see the conclusion of every possible board state? Interestingly, all the heuristics and principles that we used to play the game would cease to be meaningful. They would in fact become utterly superfluous. When you can see the whole map of the game at once, you don't need guides or directions or hints, and crucially, you are no longer in any real sense playing a game, but just walking toward a foregone conclusion. That's an interesting philosophical question. I think I once read a Buddhist book that said something about whether we had free will or that the world was deterministic. And I think that the nugget of wisdom that it gave was that if the world is deterministic, well, determinism relies on one state of the world leading to the next state of the world. But it argued that by knowing one state of the world completely, you have already changed the state of the world. So you could never really predict the next state of the world because you had already changed it. And what does that have to do with this? Well, I guess the argument being that is this hypothetical meaningful to say, what if you could see every possible board state? Is that possible? Is that like an actual possible reality? I don't know. I think that's why I say it's a philosophical question. But if it is possible and it's just a deterministic game and you could just see everything, then yeah, you know that famous Go joke, right? 2 Go gods who play perfectly sit down for a game, one god plays the 4-4 point, and then the other god resigns, right? That's basically what you're illustrating here. And so they don't have to play a game because they just know what's going to happen. Obviously, such an achievement is impossible with Go. Oh, as you say, as I've said, I find that all the time when I'm reading. I say something and then you say the same exact thing. Obviously, such an achievement is impossible with Go, as its possibility space is so vast as to boggle the capabilities of the most advanced theoretical supercomputers. The game will never be solved, and thus it will always stay a game. This leads me to my conclusion that something is only a game if it is big enough to contain the players. If the players themselves can contain the game in their minds, it ceases to be a game. I like that definition as well. This is just a foundation, of course. It doesn't really tell you whether a game is good or not. Basically, what I'd argue is that a good game is one which is large in the sense described, and which rewards effort in the project to become better and better at navigating its dark interior. I like your discussion on your episode about this question a lot. I really appreciate. Okay, so I really appreciate your thoughts on this because I think a lot of it aligns with stuff I think about as well. So it makes sense that you enjoyed some of the stuff that I talked about, and I appreciate it. An interesting side effect of this interpretation is that reading in Go and chess and other strategy games is, in some sense, not playing the game. If your reading is accurate and your judgment correct, then in a sense, the decision is about what to do is made for you. You just see and act accordingly. It's when our reading and sight fail that we have to gird our loins and find out who is better at dealing with ambiguity, uncertainty, and intuition. Thank you for the consistently interesting podcast, and all my best to you and your wife, Jack. Thank you so much, Jack, for your kind words and for your thoughtful comment. I want to make a comment here about your last very interesting thought about how when you're reading, you're in a sense not playing the game. And in a sense, I can see where you're coming from. Because as I said, like if you do a memorization contest, it's a contest, it's not a game, right? And if you're doing this thing where you're reading and that's like the important thing, and that's the only thing, then it's like, I don't know, it is a game, but it's not Go, right? It's a game, it's a kind of game, but it's not really Go. But that's kind of what I like about Go, right? And I was already thinking of this analogy before you said gird our loins. But if you think of Go as a fight, like a war, a lot of stuff goes into that war. And part of that stuff is the strength of your soldiers to actually have physical strength. And so, you can have one general going like, I'm the better general. I have better strategy because, if I had better soldiers, then I would have won. But the other general had better soldiers. So what are you going to do as the general without the better soldiers? And I think that I love that because it adds depth to the game and it makes you train for certain things and up your skills in one area or another. And all of that combined gets to live on the board and face your enemies. I love that about Go. So anyway, again, thank you for your comment. Sadaharu writes, I went to one of the World Mind Sports games and I enjoyed it. So I definitely hope Go can be featured in those kinds of events. Fighting for your country as a team is much more exciting than just joining a tournament individually. It's also one of the rare chances where you get to play in the same hall as the pros and may even play against them unless they separate the groups. Wow, you went to the World Mind Sports games and you actually played in it? That's crazy. I didn't know it was open to people like you. But I know you're very strong, but like I thought it was like you had I don't know, maybe I just like don't know how strong you are. Actually, you have some secrets maybe that I've yet to learn, but that's really cool that you actually got to were you on this okay, sorry, but I'm pretty sure you're from Singapore. Were you on the Singapore national team for the World Mind Sports Games? Am I jumping to conclusions here? What is going on? That's crazy. Anyway, but it's really cool that you went, and that's awesome. So thanks for reading. Question of the week this week: do you use AI for Go, and how do you use it for Go? And do you use it for other areas of your life? What has your experience been with AI? If you want to share your thoughts on that, just leave a comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I'd love if you gave this episode a like and subscribe if you hadn't. If you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very special thank you to James B., Brandon S., Tristan, Jeff H., and Tyranaton for supporting Starpoint. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to ko-fi.com/starpointpaduk. That's KO-FI, or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduk.com. We got some t-shirts there and some Go Grid sticky notes and things like that. So go check it out. Come on over to the Discord. You can find the link in the description, and you can connect with other Starpointers, talk about Starpoint and other Go related things. Now, what do you think a residential streetscape has in common with a Go board that's covered in matcha powder? Right, imagine a Go board and it's covered in matcha tea powder. And what does that have in common with a residential streetscape? T intersections. Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.